Hello and welcome to the Blobber does our patch notes review. So, Rule Britannia has dropped, and it's time to go through the patch notes. We have patch 1.25, aka England, was released with checksum 0FB2. Expansion features. Nations now have innovative, ranging from 0 to 100. Innovativeness is basically a rich get richer mechanic in terms of staying ahead on time on tech. When you are ahead on time on tech, you get points which go towards innovativeness, and your innovativeness reduces the cost of future techs. I'm a bit ambivalent about this. Rich get richer mechanics. Not great, usually, but we'll see. Knowledge sharing lets you speed up the adoption of institutions in a target country. This is nice. It helps you make your vassals, or you can use it to help boost your allies to getting institutions, which means they'll keep up on time on tech and be more useful allies and vassals. Wooden Wall Doctrine. So this is the naval doctrines. Basically, you can pick naval doctrines and get things like I can capture more ships, or maintenance cost goes down, or the Wooden Wall one that was just here, which you get roll bonus to combat at the cost of you spend some gold, and that is tied to how big your current navy is. I quite like the look of the maintenance cost one, but that's because I'm a cheap bastard who wants all the ducats. I don't know how much the others will be quite so useful. Maybe the combat roll one if you're playing a very naval combat game, but otherwise I think the maintenance one is probably the best. Added coal trade good. Trading in coal gives 10% extra trade goods produced nationally. That is amazing. Local bonus is 20% state maintenance reduction. Added potential for coal to a number of provinces. Yep, so they added a trade good, and they made it so that some of those trade goods could actually appear. That makes sense. Added a furnace manufactory that boosts national goods produced by 5%. National. OP. Super OP. I think that's going to be amazing. Instead of local goods produced, like if you have like 4 or 5 of these in a nation, everywhere else is producing more. It's like a manufactory that you build in one place that affects every province. Anyway, steer trade diplomatic action, blah blah blah. Yeah, if you're playing a very role-play game or a very trade-based game, Venice, Lubeck, something, that could be useful. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to be hugely important. Anglican events, yes, that's fine. Irish missions, Scottish missions, English missions, British missions, and update the Purple Phoenix DLC to match the new mission system. Yep, that's good. Because there are still some features from the, one of the American Dream or something expansion that don't work properly with the current version. They haven't fully kept that up to date. So it's good that they're at least keeping the Purple Phoenix stuff up to date. Free features. Map changes to the British Isles, France and Low Countries. New national ideas to British Isles and Low Countries. Adds a news banner. Yeah, that's not at all just them advertising their own crap. Anyway, reworked how gold is demanded in peace offers. You no longer just take money from their treasury, you instead force them to take loans up to, for each 5 war score you can make them take a loan and give that money to you. This means that you can't go beat up little nations for tons and tons of money. You can only go beat up big nations for tons and tons of money. Still, that's probably fairly sensible and a nice way of helping restrict how much gold there is, because gold is a bit easy to get. The mission system has been reworked. I mean, you'll see that in game, but it's now a like branching tree system instead of you get to see 3 or 4. Well, you get to see 3 and you cancel one and it maybe shows up a new 4th. And you had to basically look through the mission files to look at their relative weightings and things to work out which ones you'd get. Now you can more or less see all of them all the time, which is really nice. Diversify the special effects for papacy style interfaces. Sure, why not? New achievements. Yes! New achievements! New achievements, new reasons to play the game. Love. Game balance, economy. Reduced most permanent sources of land maintenance cost reduction. They're trying to make armies more expensive to keep. Increased tech effect on land maintenance from 0.1 to 0.2. So as the game progresses and as you accumulate more technologies, the rate at which the increase of cost of maintaining that army rises is larger. So once again, cost of army goes up more than it used to. This is again trying to combat how much free money there is by making you spend more money on your armies. Reduced amount of production and trade efficiency gain from tech. This is the opposite of this one. Instead of rate of money, or rate of cost of army going up with time increasing, this is rate of money going up from trade and production with time is going down. Governments. Celestial Empire, slightly more useful policy. You no longer break alliances or support liberty relations when changing the religion. Yep. Units. No longer possible to conform to template condottieri or pending condottieri. So you can't say like, I've got a stack of 5. And Lubeck says, that's too big. Only lend me 3 units. And you make a stack of 3. And then you say, here, I'll offer you 3 units because that's all you can afford as condottieri. Then you send them that condottieri and use the conform to template to make it say, instead of 3 infantry, 20 cannons. And make Lubeck pay for the maintenance of your 20 cannons. Yeah, that's probably a nice little exploit for them to be closing. At most, 25 war score can be demanded as gold in peace. Yep, that was already discussed earlier. War score cost for trade power reduced to 30, so it's easier to get trade out of people. Tributary overlords are not called into independence wars between the tributary and their subjects. Sukhothai, rejoice. So let's actually just quickly go over to the game and explain that one. So what normally happens is Ayatthaya is a bitch of Ming. Yep. So if little Sukhothai, who is Ayaththaya's bitch, wants their own freedom from Ayatthaya instead of getting integrated, they used to have to fight Ayatthaya as well as Ming, because Ming was Ayaththaya's overlord, so when you declare on Ayatthaya for your freedom, Ming gets called in. But now, Ayatthaya have to deal with that shit all by themselves. Lovely, lovely. So coming back to Facecam. To set player attitude as friendly towards a country, you now have to have... That country actually has to like you, which is a bit stupid. It's meant to be your attitude towards them. So why does it matter how they feel about you? But there's a good reason behind this. Basically, what you could do is you could set every single nation in the world as friendly towards you, or more accurately, you are friendly towards them, and then your allies would be unable to call you in against anyone because you're apparently friendly with everyone. This means that if you want to actually use this method of preventing call to arms from your allies, you have to invest the diplomat time, or money and gold, bribes, etc. You have to invest somehow in making sure that the nations that you don't want to be called in against like you back enough that you're allowed to be friendly towards them. I think this is a reasonable balance change, if not a particularly well executed one. I think there's probably better ways of doing this. Anyway, diplomacy, AI. The AI is smarter about realizing that if they declare wars, their neighbors might declare wars on them. That's what I read from that. Okay, that's fine. They will now consider giving provinces to a subject even if they themselves have a vital interest. So if you as a subject of someone, and they call you into a war, they go declare a war, and you both want a province, now rather than them basically always taking it for themselves, they're going to be like, might give it to you, maybe. That's nice. Made getting friendly attitude from the AI depend directly on opinion. This is an attempt to fix a bug that for unknown reasons made it very rare. No, it's not unknown reasons. Reasons force limit. The AIs really care about how big your force limit is, and they're trying to match this change with the earlier one about you have to have friendly relations to not be called in and blah blah blah. I don't know. It feels a bit hodgepodge to me, but we'll see. AI Overlord cancelling tributary relations or getting cancelled by Overlord will have a -1000 towards acceptance for the duration of the opinion modifier. So I think this is a nod towards Marco's, I'm going to get tributaries. Oh look, I'm going to declare a war on someone who has a huge alliance structure and peace out all the secondary partners in the war by just divesting myself of crappy little tributaries and then getting them back as soon as the war's over. What this is saying is that there will be a malice towards them accepting it for a while, so you won't be able to get them back straight away. So I think that's what this is saying. This is therefore a nod towards Marco's strategy and fixing that little method exploit. Well done. Well done, Marco. Added explicit check to forbid AI from cancelling trade relations if it's to their benefit and they aren't trying to declare war on you. Yep, that makes sense, and it matches with the whole doing the extra trade stuffs. Fixed ruler personality induced war declaration disclosure. So this is when there's an AI that has the bumbling buffoon or loose lips or those sorts of traits where they're like, we hate you, we're going to declare war, or you have heard on the grapevine that they're preparing for war sort of crap. They've fixed that a little bit. AI acceptance towards custom diplomatic actions. So, I mean, I think that should probably be in the modding section, but whatever. AI will now use statute in restraint of appeals decision. So this is, I think, to do with railroading Britain towards Anglicanism. So if it makes sense for them to use the Pope is going to hate me forever decision, but at least I accept that and get some other bonuses instead, then they will do this, whereas before they would never. AI is now aware of most types of diplomatic expenses and hence less likely to underestimate their budget. Cool. Cool, cool. AI better at money management. Free thinker and scholar personality traits more likely to share knowledge. Yeah, sure, add that. That makes sense with the share knowledge thing. An AI country maxed out on tech will no longer try to advance to a higher tech. And it will instead invest in development. This was reducing late game performance and preventing it from developing provinces. Yeah, so it's more likely to do other shit with its monarch points other than just getting even more ahead on tech. AI is now more keen to repair unmothballed ships during peace if they have no loans. I didn't think it costs them to repair because they don't have sailors, as I understand it. One of the cheats that the AI has is that they don't really pay for sailors, I think. So I don't understand that. AI is now able to decrease tariffs again, question mark? Yeah, because they just love like, oh look, my colonial nation, infinite tariffs! And then you full annex some colonizer and you inherit all these colonial nations with like 300% liberty desire because they've pumped the tariffs up hugely and it would cost you admin to push it back down. I think they should make it cost nothing, but maybe modify liberty desire whenever you click the button, rather like enable scootage, but whatever. Fixed AI increase in budget when rich, so it will spend more on army and navy if it is absurdly rich. Well, looks like Ming's getting stronger. AI is now much more likely to build force limit buildings. Good. That means that when I take over their land, I'll get more force limit buildings. AI now deprioritizes building force limit manpower, etc. buildings until they're rich enough to support the matching army. AI will now destroy buildings to build better ones if it's out of building slots, so they won't do this crappy, oh, let's build ports everywhere. And then those building slots are used up, and when you take over the land, you have to delete the ports to build manufactories and temples and crap. So they will automatically start replacing buildings with better buildings if they think they can afford it. War. Mostly undid, the AI prefers to siege 1 or 2 regs above the minimum of limit. This caused other issues currently too complex for the AI to deal with. So the AI is going to sit with doom stacks on top of forts again. Maybe they'll change this again in the future. Capped the number of days in a row an AI army will skip processing for during peace to avoid unresponsiveness when preparing for war. Fixed AI massing on borders before declaring war. For immersion, if there isn't too high a threat nearby. So they're not going to do the whole civilization thing where they put all their units on your border and then declare war, unless there's a strong reason for them to do so. Trimmed down the number of independent armies for countries with many regiments, as this was being a performance drain. So the AI will have fewer stacks, generally. Tweaked non-tributary subjects declaring wars, colonial nations to require a greater advantage, so that they won't declare stupid wars where you have to go fix it for them. Good, good, good. I don't want to be saving my stupid colonial nations all the time. Fixed issue where the AI wouldn't merge many small fleets due to wanting an admiral that couldn't be assigned. Yep. AI is more likely to choose fort locations as fleet bases to avoid easy capture. That is cool. Added guard against AI launching doomstack invasions into one province islands that already have enough troops. So they won't just stack all of their armies on Corfu anymore. They'll put one army on Corfu, and then the other armies will go do useful crap. The AI will no longer use armies to explore when there are threats nearby said army. Fair enough. Not really a big deal, but AI can now split their fleet transport when they feel safe about doing so, and the army to be transported is smaller than the fleet. Good, this will help the AI keep their armies, their army organization, where they have their armies, much. I think this will be a significant benefit to that, and they won't just end up having huge numbers of units in stupid places. Fixed cases where the army would refuse to board a transport ship because the target location is held by an enemy. Old code that doesn't make sense. Yep, fix old code that doesn't make sense. Please do that more. Fixed exploration nations AI splitting up most or all of their armies into 5k stacks due to re-signing a conquistador. So they'd see a conquistador, or they'd see that their big stack has no general. They'd see that they have a conquistador. They'd reassign the conquistador to that big stack, but then they'd say, I should really be exploring with this conquistador. Make that big stack, split off a 5 stack, try and send that to go exploring, and that loop would repeat, is my understanding. The AI should be slightly more proactive against transports landing troops on their home shores. Good. Fixed AI warship building. It will now build 5 to 10 times as larger war fleets under favourable circumstances. So if it's rich enough, it will have a larger standing navy. Good. AI keeps a home fleet consistently that's not allowed to go far from where they are. That's mostly good. They're going to have a hard time invading faraway places, but it also means that the AI isn't going to be like AI England or Lubeck or something where they've pulled away literally their entire fleet to go invade Indonesia, and you can just run rampant back home in the meantime. Revised, I mean, in the real world, I don't think a government would allow 100% of their navy to go gallivanting off across the other side of the world when it takes years for them to come back in this sort of time frame. So I think that's a fairly reasonable, immersion-y, sort of justified change as well. The AI, what else? Revised number of admirals, sure. It doesn't unassign admirals from fleets as soon as it leaves port to another fleet in the port. Yeah, it makes a decision about where it wants its admiral and it sticks with it for a while. AI considers maneuver more important than before when estimating navy power and admiral skill. So this is in deciding when the AI is looking at 2 navies, your navy and its navy, and deciding whether it wants to smack them together to try and have a fight. It will now weight the maneuver higher, because maneuver affects combat width and capture rate and all that other crap. So it's basically trying to improve the AI's ability to correctly judge when it will win a naval battle based on admiral stats. The AI is less willing to suicide navies based on that it expects to get reinforcements. Good. Probably fixed. That's worrying. Exiled armies with splinters stuck, unable to reach their base due to gathering up. Fixed cores of fleets stuck waiting for 0-unit armies. Well, that's a lovely thing to read. AI will keep a minimum fraction of its armies at home rather than sending them abroad. However, this is constrained by the splitting logic, which is their way of saying if the AI only has 1 stack of units, they're allowed to send it away, but if they have multiple stacks, they're only allowed to send half of the number of those stacks overseas. So you won't see 100% of England's units in the Caribbean, or you won't see 100% of France's units in Mexico or something, or Spain, Spain's units in Mexico. Instead, they will keep a reasonable fraction of their armies at home. Invading AI armies stuck and unable to path to departure port will now disband. This is less bad than tying up a large part of the AI's force, including freed splinters. So if you trap them on an island, I'm reading, if they are stuck and unable to get to a departure port, they will now disband. So you can't trap all of Ming's troops on Indonesia anymore, they'll just disband them and rebuild them. That's what I'm reading in that, so that's maybe another nod to typical player methods of trying to trick the AI into putting their units somewhere stupid and trapping them. Tried to make the AI less adamant about transporting troops from own areas with little actual military threat, as well as diverting troops from areas with significant military threat. So the AI puts its units in better places probably is going to put its units in better places. AI slightly more likely to assign leaders to main armies rather than splinters, and especially then divisions. What's a division? Anyway, AI can now simultaneously invade with multiple armies in the same area, provided there are enough enemies there, rather than exclusively with one army at a time. So rather than dropping off one army with transports, they can drop more than one at once. Fixed major bug in region assignment system that made most assignments fantasy, comparatively speaking. I have no idea what that means. Fixed invasion splinter consolidation behavior, so armies should gather up better. Tightened up AI's use of repairing fleets for transports. It will no longer assign such a fleet and then let an army sit frozen while it waits for that fleet to repair. Revisited exploration logic to make it work as intended with respect to not using the entire fleet to do it. The AI will stop exploring during war properly. AI regions are now different from the geographic regions and are calculated to optimize AI. Will hopefully help with idiot Marmaluke AI. Fixed crash caused by AIs trying to raise janissaries in lost states. Less crashes are good. Interface. Fixed country names sometimes appearing in strange places using Random New World. Force limit values are shown on map and macro builder when selecting the regimental camp and shipyard. New flag for Cornwall. Drilling armies have a little drilling tooltip thing. Different stuff for multiplayer makes it obvious when it's a player at war with players. This was useful. I looked at this. Clicking on achievement's progress will now highlight the relevant provinces in a map you need to fulfill the achievement. This is really nice. It highlights them around in, at least when I did it, fluorescent pink. So I went and looked at the Cebu achievement, which is recreate the Cholula, or I can't say it properly anyway. Anyway, recreate their empire, and it highlights like more or less the east coast of India, much of the Indonesian islands, and it's a really good way of getting an idea of what you still need to get without having to play the read name in achievement list, press find the individual province, that kind of tedium. This is a much nicer way of doing that. Clicking a decision requirement will now highlight the relevant provinces on the map. So the same thing that's for the achievements is for decisions. We'll skip the user modding because basically that's not terribly useful for playing the game. Scripting. There are new achievements. We already said that's great. Decisions. Added province highlighting for decisions. Well, we already mentioned that. Added decision to adopt a Sikh religion for Muslims. Okay, that's kind of cool. Events. Added some innovativeness events to go with the new mechanic. Yep, that makes sense. Added an option in the Margaret of Anjou event to make her a consort. This can no longer trigger if there is already a consort. The Cruelty of Mercenaries event now requires you to have at least 15 mercenaries rather than 1. That's probably a fairly sensible change, because if you get it when you've only got 1 or 2 mercenaries, it seems a little silly. Added events relating to the Industrial Revolution. Cool. Added 1 price change event for coal. Cool. The event for Toyotomi Hideyoshi now lets you choose him as your heir. Burgundian ambition is 15% good produced. Missions. Added province highlighting for missions, they already mentioned that. Added French missions, yes. Added Mamluk missions, okay. Added Persian missions. New Persian flavor events, the reforms of Ishmael and the shrine of Najaf, are now triggered through missions instead of mean time to happen. Updated missions for a whole bunch of people. Gujarat, Orissa, Oman. The High American Tech Group missions. Korea, Hissen Kaifa, Lubeck, Netherlands, Castile, Spain, England, Portugal, Austria, Tyrol, Styria, the Ottoman Empire, Byzantium, Timurids, Afghanistan, Tranoxiana, Ajam, the Byzantines again, Bohemia, Burgundy, and Rasids and Aden. Changes to the start date setup. So now Scotland is not so unified. There are now the Isles, and the Isles are a vassal of Scotland. Dijon is an inland centre of trade. Hunyadi is no longer treated as a regency. So this looks like Hungary might get to sort of kick off their game a bit sooner rather than being expected to sit around waiting for the silly event chain to come to an end. That's nice. Revamped areas a bit in northern France and Low Countries. They already mentioned that. Split Bourgogne into Dijonais and I have no idea. Auxerrois? Oh, it's probably a soft X. Auxerrois? Please forgive me. I am not at all fluent in French. Removed Limburg provinces and replaced it with Upper Guelders. Much of the old Limburg now belongs to Liège. Added 4 provinces to Ireland, and there are some new Irish miners or whatever, which there is a problem in that the Irish miners are not eligible, the new ones are not eligible for the Luck of the Irish achievement at the moment. They need to fix the list of tags that it is allowed to start as. Added 15 provinces to the islands of Great Britain, cool. 3 provinces to the lowlands, 6 to the French region, added Tyrol. So these are those new Irish tags that I said that don't that are not able to be eligible for the Luck of the Irish achievement, which is a bit sad. Added Man, Revolta tag, so the Island of Man is now an available... Well, there's a tag that lives on the Island of Man, and there's an achievement that goes with them, so that's cool. Startup screens for Irish Miners Province, Brittany and Scotland. Cool extra text when you start the game as those explaining sort of the situation of the world. You can now pick Siberian Clan Council Government in the National Designer. Yay! I mean, it's not a big deal, but there is some cool things you can do with the Siberian Clan Council stuff. You can make... you can stack unjustified demands to an extent that you can just take any province without dip. It'll cost you a shitload, an absolute arse load of aggressive expansion, but you can avoid ever paying dip for anything. You can no longer avoid you can't use the drill your armies to not pay reinforcement costs exploit. Added even more consistent colouring in the tutorial overview. Fixed bugs in some events. Fixed another event. Breaking vassalization is not limited to Art of War, clearly not working as designed. Fixed the wrong primary coacher for Hojo, Hokusawa and Tokugawa. Fixed sound not playing when becoming Defender of the Faith for certain religions. Fixed crash to desktop when trying to move a trade node in the nudger, whatever that is. Fixed minor error name display bug. Removed different religious schools penalty when playing without Cradle of Civilization is inconsistent with the DLC feature. Good, I didn't think they should really have that to begin with anyway. Fixed bug where subject wasn't able to call Overlord into war when said Overlord had already warned the other party despite the UI claiming otherwise. Good, I like it when the UI doesn't lie to you. Some modding things. Fixed banned players getting a message about being kicked instead of banned. Yeah. Fixed swapped option texts for Japan flavor event 50. Startup screen for Austria no longer makes claims about the ability of Albert the Magnanimous twice. Fixed an event that could swap the religion of a province that had a centre of reformation. Yeah, that's a bit awkward. Fixed a bug where the Japan flavor event Silver Pavilion could trigger in a province that already had a cathedral. Fixed freeze when having the same unit multiple times. Fixed freeze when having the same unit multiple times in province unit list. I don't quite understand that. Fixed a crash to desktop in AI acceptance in custom diplomatic actions. Fixed La Manche's distinct lack of culture. Forming Japan now properly sets a flag so that it cannot be recycled with the same country. Oh, look. They noticed my little exploit and they fixed it. Namely that you could go form Japan, form someone else, form Japan, form someone else, form Japan, and every time you could use that to convert Diplo points into admin and military points. So, yay me! I got an exploit fixed, much like Marco got that other one fixed. I have one for this patch, so I'm at least keeping pace a little bit with him. Arguably, that disband units one could be thought to be related to him abusing, trapping Chinese units on Indonesia. So maybe he's at 2 and I'm at 1. But you know, we're not doing too badly. At least we're on the scoreboard. Local institution spread no longer shown in national modifier view. The Grand Embassy event series should now be less confused about the genders. Fixed timeline fog of war exploit. So there was a little exploit where you could use the replay timeline feature to look into the fog of war. They've supposedly fixed that. When the Emperor enacts Revoke the Privilegia, it no longer matters if their capital is outside the HRE for liberty desire calculation purposes. So you don't have to join the Empire in order to not have all the princes hate you when you revoke the Privilegia. The surrender of Maine no longer refers to the wrong monarch as taking matters into their own hands. So if your monarch dies too quickly, or you change monarch, then the event no longer uses a fixed name, and it instead goes and looks up the name of the current monarch and says, they're doing this shit. When a Centre of Reformation is created, it will now automatically stop conversion of the province that the centre is developable. that it is created in by other centres of reformation. Yep, so you won't end up with an awkward situation where a centre of reformation province is of the wrong religion compared to the religion that that centre of reformation is supposed to be spreading. Fixed desktop crash to add remove province triggered modifier with invalid modifier. Fixed declare war dialogue. The overlord of colonial nations. Yeah, so this is just saying that the same as before, where it was the UI will now say the right thing. The UI will now say the right thing about when you declare on colonial nations if you are yourself a nation in the Americas or in a colonial nation region, that their overlords will not join the war. Fixed crash to desktop when using the run console command with scripted triggers. Fixed empty provinces when loading old saves. Added flag to prevent War of the Roses from potentially happening twice. Yeah, because that would be very awkward. Primitives no longer get naval reformers in their advisor pool. Yeah, because they're not allowed boats. So that would be a bit awkward. Fixed wrong scope for institution events. Meantime to happen. Units can no longer be conformed to template while movement is locked. Fixed yet another fix for AI sending subsidies of incredibly small amounts. Made trading cities start with idea groups if appropriate. So if you spawn a new trading city, if you're playing as a merchant republic and you spawn one of the trading cities, they will actually have idea groups filled out, just like if you released another tag that had been dead for a while. It automatically sort of levels up their tech and number of ideas to be the same as yours. The Make Constantinople the Capital decision now changes the religion of Constantinople to whatever religion you have, rather than Sunni. That's cool. Fixed it so you can't refill garrisons unless you control the actual province or one of your allies. So you can't awkwardly refill your enemy's garrison. So you're sitting on a province, sieging it, and you click the button to refill their garrison with your men. It's totally not a Trojan horse type situation. Hostile core creation provinces no longer disappear for annexed countries as long as they are the most hostile coring costing claim in the province. So we're going to be paying more for coring overall sometimes. Troop counts over 1 million in war screen now show with 2 decimals, so you can get a better count. Troop counts in war overview are not hidden for the observer, so this was presumably awkward in one of the dev clashes. They were unable to observe some numbers that they would like to, so they said, well, let's fix that. Fixed the ability to create empty ghost armies when transporting across water via automatic transport missions. Good. The automatic transport is better than it used to be, but still not perfect. Fixed crash when trying to build a manufactory locally in a province. Fixed scoping bug for continent trigger in some trade policy events, and fixed error when using the seed province equals number command. Cool. And so we're come to an end. I hope that this has been insightful for you and that you will enjoy the new patch. I know I'm going to get playing today. Bye bye, guys.